Promise.
Coming.
And there it is.
Oh, that's it. It's there. We made it. We've become. We're living in this moment of now. Welcome, everybody, to the High and Empowered podcast. Today, super excitement. You know how I get very excited. I get very excited about things. Today, I've got Dr. THC, and we're going to be talking a lot. We're going to be getting deep. You know, like Ray, last week we were asking deep questions, deep answers. Ray is here as well, joining me from Dualistic Unity. And by the way, if you have not heard Dualistic Unity yet, we're going to put a link in the show for you to get a hold of that show because it's incredible. It's fantastic. Ray and Andrew really get deep into the psyche of our dualistic nature of living. And we have so many questions, but sometimes we don't have anybody to turn to for answers. So we are the answers, but we have to find that path within to get those answers. So today, let's start it off. High and empowered, right here, Dr. THC, Dr. Hillary Taylor. So introduce yourself to our high and empowered audience.
Sure. Good morning, everybody, or afternoon. Dr. Hillary Taylor. I am a clinical psychologist. I specialize in post-traumatic stress disorder, mainly with combat veterans and addicts. About 10 years ago, I moved to Florida from Baltimore, thinking that my life was going to be working with veterans and the community here. There was a hiring freeze, all federal government. So I went and I worked with people in recovery. I absolutely loved my job. I saw many beautiful people suffer, and I wanted to tell them to use plant medicine, and I couldn't. So Hurricane Irma came. I left Florida like most non-Floridians do, and I left my job. I was burnt out. I realized how burnt out I was. And I left the job and I started more of a movement for plants over pills, really pushing the idea of having options, of not always listening to the people in the white coats and doing your research. And yes, pharmacology does have a place with certain things, and it is for certain people, but it's not for everybody. It's not for the opioids are not for 12-year-olds in pain. There's other options. So now I can tell people just go smoke a joint. I couldn't do that before. And I have been very involved in the cannabis community since then. As I'm sure most of you know, it's not all legal. Because I'm a doctor, I obviously promote the medical side of it here in Florida. That's what's legal. And that's why I'm doing, that's part of why I wanted to start doing events. Fast forward 4 years. So in that time, I still do therapy. I still see clients on the phone. I do a lot of telehealth, telemedicine. During COVID, it normalized everything that I do. Everybody loves what I do. That's great. And then October 7th happened. So my life was on one trajectory. My brother married an Israeli. My grandparents had siblings who during the Holocaust went to Israel to relocate. So I have about 100 family members in Israel. 13 of them are currently serving in the IDF. And on October 8th, we got the phone call that my cousin, who was 22, was shot while rescuing hostages in Gaza. So everything sort of changed. It became sort of a personal mission to bring awareness about plant medicine to Jews, to figure out how those two things mesh together. I obviously wanted to do a fundraiser to help not only Jews, but Christians and Muslims that are living in Israel that are being affected by this, who have lost their parents. I don't want to get political, but Hamas is killing Israelis, not just Jews. So there's Americans, there's
Right.
other people in
I'm glad you're
captivity.
saying that, because there's a big difference. When you're in Israel, that's Americans, that's Christians, that's Muslims, that's Jews, that's Kenyans, that's from all over
Absolutely.
the world. Much like America, Israel is a melting pot, and it's home to not just Jews, but everybody. So I did want to just quickly mention that your party, your event, your fundraiser is for everybody, and
Yes,
everybody is welcome for this as well.
absolutely. Now it will be kosher, and that is it's for many reasons. I work with the International Jewish Cannabis Association, so being a representative, it's going to be kosher so that even the most kosher people can eat and will have food. And that's also, anybody can eat kosher food. So with it being kosher, it just elevates it a little bit to that standard, that kosher standard, but anybody can eat it and it's still good and, delicious and healthy and all those good things.
I just want to
Yes,
ask, you said kosher food. Now, is there kosher cannabis?
there is kosher cannabis.
Okay. Well, no, I mean, now what makes it kosher? I'm just curious. Does a rabbi come in, kind of kosherizes it?
Yes.
And then he tests it out a little bit. He goes, "This is some good kosher cannabis. I'm just going to let you know I'm loving it."
We will actually be having a rabbi at the event, who will know more about these things. But so I call myself Jewish. I've always called myself Jewish. I'm more traditional. I don't have children to pass the traditions on. So by myself, I know I went to Jewish day school. I know the things, but I've unlearned the things, or I've forgotten the things. I've learned more now that I'm back in it and doing it. I'm learning more again.
Do you feel like that event brought you closer back to your Judaism?
Yes.
Back to more, or to your spirituality?
Not just that event, but working with the International Jewish Cannabis Association.
Now, okay, and that's something we're going to want to talk about too, because I'm curious how,
that
Jews
happened.
and cannabis combine. I mean, we all combine. We're all cannabis. We're
so,
all those two.
So and again, at the event, we have people talking about all of these things. So what I've learned is, historically, cannabis is in the Bible. It is in the Talmud. It's in the beginnings. It was used in the Holy Temple as an incense for the highest priests to have.
They made oil as well, yes, with myrrh and other
oil and incense, right? It wasn't
planted in cannabis, which that'll tell you why they probably saw a few things. They were seeing visions, right. They were feeling things. Of course, they were incredibly high.
They were talking God.
Maybe not just incense. Look, Moses is over here going, the burning bush. God is talking to me. He was burning a bush, and yes, I imagine God was talking to him.
And you have to wonder, there weren't politics like there are now. There weren't laws like there are now. So plant medicine, we talk about ibogaine, we talk about ayahuasca. Who knows what was available to them that they were trying? It's very likely that somebody saw a burning bush. I'm not going to question that. So now, learning that sacred medicine has had a place. It's been written about. Because of politics, it's been withheld. It's not been studied in recent times to see the medicinal benefits of it. And the majority of the research is coming out of Israel. The founder of the endocannabinoid system passed away about a year ago. He was an Israeli. So a lot of things starting in Israel.
You're right. There's a lot of connection, a lot of things bringing it together, and I'm glad that there's an international Jewish
Yes.
Cannabis Association.
Yes.
I
So
would love,
it was.
I would love to see an international Christian cannabis association, so that we can
Well,
we can
and
break
what we
down
do
barriers there.
is we go in with we go into churches, and it's not depending on who our listeners are. If it's in a synagogue, we do a lot of educational seminars. I work with Total Holistic Center, so that is an MD. She prescribes cannabis. And as well as other, IVs and other low toxicity screens, and what's going on with your body to figure out more of a holistic way of treatment. So in working with these people, we also go, depending on who our audience is. If it's a more Jewish audience, we cater to more spirituality and the connection between Judaism and cannabis. If it's a more Christian or even Muslim community, or secular, it's more about the benefits, the endocannabinoid system, what cannabis can do for you, just being an informed patient and doing your research and not believing everything that's being said, because there's a lot of different opinions out there.
I imagine, especially through religious views, because I'm Jewish, and I say that because I'm older. I'm Jewish by how I was brought up through my family. I'm Jewish by blood, but I don't see my religion as one entity.
Yes.
I see it as being spiritual. I love God. I love the entity of God, or the thought of God, or the thought of an entity that could be God, but that could be me. That could be whatever it could be. I don't know. That's what
It could be a
drives
rock.
You don't know what it is, and you have so many more questions. But in that, I believe in what everybody believes, in every single religion, because there's got to be a little bit of truth of something somewhere that comes together as the one. And even if there isn't a one, it's everything still. I am everything and everything is me. So
Yes.
I look at that as religion in the same way. I'm more spiritual
Yes.
in the understanding me. So when it comes to my Judaism, I speak Hebrew, I read Hebrew, I understand the teachings, went to Sunday school, went through, and it's like torture. Oh, it was torture. I had to go to therapy for my Sunday school, but I'm much better now.
And that's one of the things that I talk about.
Right.
I talk about the generational trauma. I'm a third generation Holocaust survivor. So my grandparents were Holocaust survivors. There's things that I turned away from because they were shoved down my throat. You have to marry somebody Jewish. You have to continue the lineage. Well, I'm single. I'm happily single. I don't usually date Jewish people. But going back to the reconnection, Tu B'Shvat. I mean, I learned about it when I was younger. Is it a holiday I think about? No. Is it a holiday I celebrate? No. But working with the International Jewish Cannabis Association, we've been doing monthly events. So I did a little bit of research into what Tu B'Shvat is, and it's a celebration of trees and fruits. So we did paint your own charcuterie boards, and we talked about why you don't have meat on your Jewish charcuterie board, and we talk about the different blessings for the fruit versus the crackers versus the whatever else is on there. And everybody had a board and painted it, and we talked a little bit about what Tu B'Shvat is. So I learned things, and yay, I guess I celebrated Tu B'Shvat.
So through the International Jewish Cannabis Association, you feel this is more of like a reconnection of your Judaism?
I'm not becoming more religious.
Because don't get me wrong, if I can smoke a joint and go to temple, I'm telling you, I would do it. I mean,
I do.
While I'm in temple, don't get me wrong, I would love to just sit there and smoke a little, just enjoy. I mean, I do. I I haven't gone to a high holiday in many years. And I mean, no, I mean, look, I think it would be great to smoke with the rabbi. I would
Absolutely.
love to get
And I know rabbis that smoke.
Okay, this is exciting.
Smoking on Shabbat is a little so and what I've learned also, tinctures, edibles are Shabbat friendly, right? Vaping and smoking are not, because flames and batteries. So there are ways that the most religious people are still using. And, you know, again, it speaks to the medical part of it, you know, that people who are counting on it for medicine don't have another option on the weekends when they can't use flames or batteries.
These events to also educate not just the Jewish community, but I guess everybody about medical cannabis, because
Yes.
I heard it and that's great. That's one of the biggest things that I pushed for so long is the education of cannabis through the understanding and the knowing. I think because now Ray and Andrew have a series, which is it's Being High.
Being High with Dualistic Unity. Yeah.
Now, how has that been going with, because now you guys have been talking to so many different.
Well, it's interesting because what I'm enjoying about what we're discussing here, because I actually had no idea that cannabis had been decriminalized in Israel back in 2021, and that it's medically available, that it's, you know, moving in the direction towards, you know, legalization. Hopefully, let's just say, very much in the way that a lot of the states are, because you can talk about like the endocannabinoid system, we can talk about, you know, the use of hemp and cannabis historically, we can talk about all of that, but what we're really seeing is a change in mentality, because that's really what happens when we get high, right? Like, we don't talk about the benefits when it comes to, let's just say, prayer, right? Or the subjective experience of connecting with yourself. Like, these are all things that deepen our spiritual experience. They deepen what we mean by spiritual experience, right? And when you're looking back, these things come from the ground. They come from the earth. They come from God, as it were. And so at one point, it wasn't even a question of whether or not we should use them. And that influenced a lot of the spiritual experience that our oldest texts and religions are based on. So while we follow the religions, we kind of lost the mentality to a large degree. So it's great to reconnect just to ourselves that way. So this is very exciting to me. I do have a question, though, because you had mentioned that you have a fundraiser coming up this Sunday, correct?
I do.
I would love to know more about that.
Okay. So this Sunday, this weekend, is a holiday called Purim. It is, for lack of a better word, it's like the Jewish Mardi Gras. That's what I've been reading, how to explain it to other people. It's based on a story where a Jewish woman pretty much saved the entire Jewish community. I mean, that's making the long story short. It's based on dressing up, because part of ourselves were hidden in that time. So people dress up. So there will be a costume party. There are, in the Jewish religion, they're not like commandments, but they're called like good deeds, mitzvot. And there's 4 that you have to do during Purim. And one is listen
it's
to
not
the
a
story.
commandment. You have to do it. Listen, I'm sorry.
Right.
I just have to throw that in there. It's not a commandment.
Not a commandment.
It's a suggestion.
But it's like
but
you get like you get like an extra ticket to heaven. That's like and I believe that I'm a good person, so I have lots of tickets. So I don't have to do anything. But if you feel like you have to do it, we're providing access to those 4 things. So the event is in Meisner Park. It's a secret location in Meisner Park for security purposes. So we're giving that out when people buy tickets. We're going to have the story of Purim being read, so that is one of those things that you're asked to do. You're asked to listen to the story. So that will be outside. It's optional. It's read in Hebrew. So if you're not used to that, you can just go see what it's all about. If you have no interest, you don't have to. You can walk away. And then giving charity is a big part of it. And that's why, not just doing a fundraiser. I'm doing a fundraiser to help the people in Israel. Like I said, not just the Jews, the people of Israel. But that's part of it, is giving charity. Having a meal is part of it. So there will be food. There's always, in the Jewish religion, Oren, back me up, but food is always a part of it. Food, if you
It's
don't
like the
make,
Italians, there's always food. Oh my God,
there's always food. It's like one of the commandments, like to eat food.
I think I saw that in the commandment somewhere. Thou
You're
must
supposed
plenty.
you're supposed to have a
Right?
seuda,
Whitefish,
So,
smoked
yeah.
salmon.
Yeah.
Quick question. So the food's gonna be kosher.
The food's gonna be kosher. And also to drink. Drink is actually a commandment.
To drink is a commandment.
To drink is on this holiday specifically, you're supposed to get so drunk that you don't know the difference between the good people and the evil people in the story of the holiday. So it's really
I have never heard that, but I really like that as a drinking game. I'm just gonna throw that out there. The next holiday I come into, like, listen, people, every time somebody says homatashin, you have to drink.
You have to drink, right? So there are specific foods that we eat. Hamantashen, like Oren mentioned, it's a dessert that is in the shape of a triangle, and it's supposed to, again, I wasn't there, but it's supposed to mimic the evil person's hat, which was 3 corners. There's so much that I don't understand still.
I'm not saying Illuminati.
Right? Who knows? I question everything, like Oren. I am more spiritual than religious in any way. But I found that there was this hole in the cannabis community. What I have found is that the Jewish community doesn't talk about the opioid crisis, the opioid mortality crisis. We tend to try to keep everything sort of behind closed doors. There's enough reasons, I've talked to a lot of people and they say there's enough reasons people hate us. We don't want to give them more reason to think that we're less than. It's a disease. So I can go back to that and say addiction's a disease and nobody's better or worse for it. But this is a way to get that conversation started and to say no religion or culture is above addiction, and we need to talk about it. And at all my events, every single one of my events, I give away Narcan. And I have partnered up with a retired fireman paramedic, and his nonprofit his mission is to give every single Floridian Narcan. At least every home should have Narcan. It's the name for the generic naltrexone, which helps when you overdose. It gives you 8 minutes for paramedics to show up to help. So it buys you time. It has a 93% success rate. So we're really saving lives, and really just that education that says it doesn't matter what age you are. You may get prescribed opioids and you might forget that you took one, and you might take another, and then who knows what happens. It's good to have Narcan in your home. If you have children who go to parties, it's good to equip them with Narcan. It's so easy to administer. It's a nose inhaler. There's no reason we shouldn't have it. In Florida, it doesn't go bad if you keep it in the car, which was my concern. Only in the north will it freeze, and then you have to wait 24 hours for it to defrost. But that's not an issue here. So just having one, you can save a life, and they're $50 in the pharmacy, and a lot of people don't want to pay $50 to save a stranger. So this allows you, even the nicest restaurants, if you go to the bathroom and somebody's on the floor, you're not in a panic of what to do. And that's what I do. I equip people with knowledge, with everything that they need to have to save a life, to make the right choices, to make better choices. People try to get off of heroin with methadone, with Suboxone. Why are we not using cannabis? It boggles my mind. Or psychedelics. And they're much easier to wean yourself off of those things than the people that I know who are on methadone for years. And it's just as bad. And they're not making better choices. And they're not having these, what you were talking about, these insightful, in-depth conversations with other people, with themselves. I believe that cannabis, people ask me all the time, why are you so happy? And it's partially because I smoke, and I spend so much time with myself that getting to know myself, I love spending time alone. I've gotten to that point where I am my own best friend. I don't need anybody else to entertain me. I can entertain myself. I do have a dog who I talk to, and usually when I'm high, he talks back. It's like this burning bush thing. It's life is whatever you make of it, and it allows me to do different work. It allows me to do deeper meditation. It allows me to connect. It allows me to have deeper conversations. My therapy with my clients is not therapy. We sesh. So I have found that people who smoke want to go to a therapist who they know smokes. Otherwise, they're not going to tell their therapist that they smoke. And then it brings them to a different level, especially if I smoke with them. I always ask permission if that's something they want me to do. But it brings them to that same level where now that's the elephant in the room is out there. We know you smoke.
People more open?
Yes.
I mean, obviously, I know that. I'm definitely much more open when I'm high than when I'm not high. Yes. But I'm open regardless. That's just me. But in that,
and so am I.
This is what intrigued me. You said it. I'm like, okay, I've got it. This is deep. This is a whole new level of therapy. This is a whole new level of connecting to people.
And that's why I call them sessions. We sesh. It's not scary. It's not, oh, there's something wrong with me. I'm mentally ill. I need therapy. I'm talking to somebody who has their doctorate in psychology, who knows something, not a friend. I'm unbiased. I'm non-judgment. And I think that judgment part of it decreases completely. And that's why people are more open. It's like, oh, she's high too. Like I can just, and people do, they just talk more. I think a lot of people have anxiety. So, and I smoke because I have anxiety. So it relaxes me. We're able to do some deep breathing in a session. People are more open to suggestion. So, and when I say things like, I'm seeing yellow flowers, I think you need to go buy yellow flowers and put them in your room. They go, whoa, okay, that's a good idea. Instead of, you're crazy. I don't know why you see yellow flowers. I'm not going to do, they're just a little bit more, they're easier to work with. I also know that they're not severely mentally ill, because if they're severely mentally ill, I won't see them as a patient. They need to be under more strict care.
Well,
They need to
it's
make
like a general practitioner or even other doctors. They'll send people off to specialties.
right.
And in the psychological world, I understand there's a lot of specialties. I think this is fantastic on both ends, because this looks like it opens you up as well in an empathetic, non-judgmental way. I mean, I'm I don't feel as though I'm judgmental. I say that, but of course, we all carry emotional judgment with us. And of course, I'm judgmental. I judge myself, but I'm not judging anybody else. I don't care. I'm judgmental of me in my quest of authenticity and who I am within blood, religion. That's why I'm so curious here in this cycle of therapy and cannabis. This will have to be a show on its own.
So I will tell you, coming out of the closet as a cannabis user was huge. I did lose a lot of followers, a lot of colleagues are not supportive. Even my own family members, some of them are not supportive. You know, it's still federally illegal. That's the stance.
Do any of them use?
What was that?
Do any of them use cannabis in any way for
Yes.
medical treatment?
Yes.
And they're still judgmental.
Yes.
That's a
So,
Jew. I'm sorry. That's Jewish people. I'm a Jew. I can say it. That's Jewish people. Look, Mike, I'm not going to say my father. I just said him, but I'm not going to say him. He was totally against freaking cannabis. And he's like, listen, when it's legal, then I'll believe it. Before that, you're breaking the law. This is ridiculous.
Yes.
It's like Jewish law you're breaking or something.
It's like you're going to be
so they
sent to the fiery side. Like, and when my parents finally realized what I do, it was always don't ask, don't tell. And I've been smoking since I was 14. It's always been don't ask, don't tell. When I came out as Dr. THC, which stands for Dr. Taylor's Holistic Community, on my page, on my website, my landing page, it talks about cannabis. And my father called me, who's an ex-federal government worker, and he said, where's my acknowledgement? That, you know, my acknowledgement page, my thank you for getting you to this point. And I said, wait a minute, how do you want to be associated with something cannabis? Oh, you're right. Never mind. My colleagues who do consume, because they work in administrative positions for the government, they can't follow me. They can't support me. They what they do in their own time is their business. And obviously they're psychologists, and psychology is based on the fact that we don't tell our patients anything about ourselves. We don't have pictures of family members. We don't have trash in the trash can. We don't project anything about, we're this tabula rasa, a blank slate, so that you can mirror what your clients are and they can learn about. That's the premise of psychology. When I came out as a cannabis user, right, people are like, what? That's the thing? Yeah. So, are you married? Can't answer that. Need to respond with a question. I see that's important for you to know. I wonder why that's important for you. What religion are you? I see that's important, that holds some importance for you. Maybe we should have a conversation about that. And you never reveal what you are, because then your client will have a judgment about you. And that can change the therapeutic bond. So for so long.
So even getting high with your clientele. So you not getting high with your clientele.
Nobody knew.
Regular therapy, but then
nobody knew.
Right. So at that point.
So in 2017, I'm like, hey, I'm Dr. THC, and this is what I do. A lot of people were like, whoa, we don't want to that's not ethical. That's not what we do. So I stopped practicing as a psychologist and I became certified as a life coach so that my license is not on the line. I found ways around this.
But
I
you know,
have to.
such a shame that and now where psychologists play such a big role, for example, here in Florida, is if you come in with issues of say PTSD and you don't have a recommendation from your doctor, or you don't have the history from your doctor, or you know, they call up a psychologist and you talk to them for like 2.5 seconds and they're like, listen, okay, yeah, you sound like you've got heavy PTSD. I'm just going to go ahead and make that recommendation. And that's where, no, I mean, I'm just saying that's where psychology has started to play a role in cannabis. But instead, I like this other path. I like this session of, oh, there you are. I like this. It's like,
Oh,
they're listening. They keep
did
you
I
out.
lose you?
I like, no, you're back. I see you. Can you see us?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can't hear you anymore.
We can hear you. Oh, no.
Crud.
It's not on our side, it's on hers.
Hold on.
Right.
Hold on.
Oh, wait, you're back. I hear you. Do you hear us? It's like the next 15 minutes going, I hear you. Do you hear me? Listen, this is how it felt like when I talked to my mother. She's like, are you listening to me? I'm like, I'm listening to you. Are you listening to me? I'm listening to you. My mother was like the surprising lady. She goes, can you hear me over here? Mother, I can hear you everywhere. So, you're back?
I'm back. I'm back.
Awesome.
I'm back.
You pressed one thing and that was it. That was like so that's what I'm saying. I would love to see more of a involvement from our psychological community and cannabis. And especially since you're working with veterans, you're working with PTSD directly. This is and I believe life gives us PTSD. I believe everything we go through, it's not just going, I mean, yes, our boys going to war, our boys dealing with government, our boys having to deal with anything like that. It's difficult. And anybody going through traumatic experiences, having a boyfriend or a girlfriend that beats them, you know,
or just in general.
Of different, I mean, I'm just saying Gaza and the people that are going through this, the people in Israel, the people in Gaza, the traumatic experiences that they're going through, that's PTSD. But in that, they need relaxation. I mean, I know I'm not saying let's airdrop cannabis. I know that's terrible. I'm but I do think that would be amazing. I mean, my solution is attacking the UN with cannabis.
I did
kind of drop right in the cup.
I did see a meme of a jet with dropping cannabis, and it was like,
but no, it would
peace.
be realistic. I'm just
world peace.
To be realistic, I really think though, life gives us PTSD, and we need sessions with a psych, because I believe in therapy. I think therapy is important. Sometimes you don't know how to talk to yourself. I mean, I know that sounds weird, but we don't. I mean, I talk to myself all the time.
But is that positive?
Yeah. But is it positive?
You're right. Positive?
Sometimes I need help to talk to myself, to understand what I'm saying, maybe to help put it in order. And that's what I think therapy is important for. Not, I mean, it's just somebody to talk to, somebody to try to understand where you're coming from and give you a second perspective, another point of view. And I think therapy with cannabis, this is incredible. This is like my new mission. I'm going to be people. We need to talk about therapy and cannabis and the melding of these two worlds together.
And it's also a different business. It's a different business model. Psychologists require you. Most psychologists require you to call a week in advance to make an appointment for 50 minutes. And at your 50-minute session, you're cut off because another client's coming in the door. And I went to therapy to see the good and the bad about, if I'm going to be a therapist, I want to be on the other side of the table. I want to see what my clients experience. So what I do, because I'm telemental health, you pay per minute. If you need a 15-minute session, I give you a 15-minute if that's all you can give time to yourself for, it's better than nothing. I don't know how employers expect their clients to take time out of their day to go run to a therapist, to go run back. There's no time to process what they've just talked about, to go back to work, to finish their day, and they never have time for themselves. Some of my clients talk to me from their way from work to go pick up their kids at school. They have 15 minutes to themselves, and that's it. How am I supposed to expect that person to come into me for 50 minutes? It doesn't work. So I make it more accessible for people whose time is really limited. I also don't ask my clients to wait on their crisis for a week. I think that's ridiculous, because crisis happens and then there's a domino effect of how you respond to that crisis and what else happens. So I will respond to my clients, and I will either talk to them that day or within 24 hours. I will make time for them. Even if it's only a 10-minute session, just to get them to the next time that we can have a sit down hour. And then the other thing is, I don't cut them off at 50 minutes. There's a theory, it's called hand on the door theory. And it's the end of that 50 minutes, somebody drops the cannonball of, and by the way, my father just passed away. Hey, that's something I as a therapist have to write that down, remember to ask you about it next week, and there's going to be other things to talk about next week. So instead of that, I say, wait a minute, our session's not over. I charge by the minute. If I have to go for an hour and a half, I have that time blocked out for you. That if you're crying, if you're in distress, I'm not going to say, oh, looks like our time's up, I'll see you next week. I allow them to process that. And when we're finished, I always end on a positive note. And I get them, like if they're crying, to stop crying. And how can we go about, I'm a what's next. I'm a so what. Okay, no, it happened. It's sad.
It's
now
so
what?
Because you can't just end your feelings on a time. You can't just sit there and you're in the middle of discussing and you're getting deep. I mean, it takes you a while, especially when people get therapy. Sometimes it can take them 20 minutes to be comfy to talk to someone.
Absolutely, and that's what I think the cannabis helps too.
I mean, so.
And I think the cannabis helps you get there faster. So it's more of therapy is based on the relationship between the therapist and the patient. So I sort of put fire, like I kick that in high gear. Like we're going to establish a relationship. We're going to start smoking a joint together. Boom, the relationship's there. Oh, now I feel more comfortable. Okay. Now I know she's not like my grandma or my mom, or, there's a lot of references that people make that holds them back from being as open. And that it cuts through so much of that wall. And it brings people just.
Absolutely right. There's a huge wall, and there's a huge wall we bring in. Oh, hey, check that out. That's awesome. There's a huge wall that we bring in. And to be able to soften that wall, especially when you have so much time to talk to somebody. And this paid per minute sesh, psychological breakdown help from daily. There's a lot to go there. By the way, you'll see on the screen and also in the chat, we have a link to the fundraiser and to the event that this Sunday. And it's Purim I want to say there's more than just a costume, more than just a costume contest. In the rich tradition of it, people, actually, there was a huge party. And I do remember
Yes.
during the big party, and
Big party.
there was a big party in the story, and the princess had to dress up so that she wasn't spotted by the king. I just wanted to get that out there because that's something I remembered.
Right.
And
that's why we dress up, because
I would love to know where cannabis may have played a part during this party, during these traditions. I'm going to go back and look into it a little bit more. I think there's some interesting things happening there. I think Purim, I look at it like the Jewish Halloween,
right.
But I like the Mardi Gras approach. And so definitely you'll find that in the chat. That's a link to the fundraiser, to the event, to the party, and that's happening this Sunday. So I did want to quickly ask the future of that movement, the future of the International Jewish Cannabis Association, the future, and and they're kind of like the future direction, and the future of Dr. THC. What you're looking to do, where you're looking to maybe expand. I don't know. I'm just,
So the future, about two different answers. My personal future is I love therapy. I love sesh. I love seshing with my clients. I don't think that just brings me reward in life. And I don't think I'll ever step away from that. I always said I'm going to find a job that I can do no matter how old I am. And as long as I can listen, I'm going to do therapy. I'm going to do sessions. I think people need it. I think I'm one, not to toot my own horn, but I'm one of the more non-judgmental people that's open-minded and can do this. So personally, I'm always going to be taking clients. I'm also always going to be doing more events, whether it's with the IJCA or by myself. I want to do a drag event. There's some things that don't align with the International Jewish Cannabis Association that do align with Dr. THC. So
I can hear them right now going, oy vey, oy, oy.
So Dr. THC does her own thing. And when I can, I'm on the board of the IJCA. That doesn't mean that's all encompassing. That doesn't mean that's all of who I am. So when I can, every month, especially when there's a holiday, I call them the high holidays. That's been my mission. So for Passover, we're going to do a Passover mini putt-putt. And like for every person who wins the number putt-putt, they're going to get a little gift, whether it's a pre-roll or, an edible or something, like just giveaways, just to bring cannabis and, the holidays together. I would love to do, and I'm talking to people in New York and California and Colorado about doing a mock Seder, an infused mock Seder, where we, I'm friendly with Token Jew. I don't know if anybody follows him, but he has a high gutta. He has a rolling tray that's a Seder plate. He has a roller that looks like a Torah scroll. He has a grinder that looks like a dreidel. I mean,
I like a pipe. I mean, not just a pipe; it's a menorah and a pipe.
Yes, from Grav Labs.
Right, I have that, and it's the most amazing thing in the world.
I want it. I'm manifesting it.
And cannabis during that time of year. I just want to throw that out there. I think a mock Seder is very interesting.
I think it would be
Seder for the non-Jewish listeners. What that is, it's during the high holidays of Passover, and we talk about our exodus from Egypt,
which is next month.
Which is that I'm glad you told me because I actually didn't know.
The end of next month.
It's like right upon us, and then my dad called me. He's like, "Son, you know what tomorrow
is?" It usually coincides with Easter. That's sort of how I remember it, but Easter's early this year.
I don't know when any of the high holidays are. If my dad did not remind me, he reminds me of daylight savings. He sent me a message the other day. He's like, "Listen, it's daylight savings, right?" I looked at the text. I'm like, no, this is very helpful. So,
but your phone would have told you.
Passover is like, what starts tomorrow? Passover. But no, I love. So a Seder is a meal where the whole family sits down to remember this event in Jewish history in meal. And in the meal, there are prayers, there are ceremonies. I mean, if you're a person for pomp and circumstance, it's amazing. It really is, because there's so much going on where you have the oldest child and the youngest child, and they have moments for everybody to speak. So if we include cannabis into this, oh, I'm excited. Only because, especially if you're putting religion and you're dropping the barriers of how we approach religion, because a lot of people want to come and see these things that are not religious. And
Well, I would love to get a podcast or even a sit down of a rabbi, a priest, a monk. I mean, I don't know who I don't know. but
that sounds a lot of fun. I want to be there.
To smoke.
Right. No, I mean, but they have to all really combine. I mean, I would love to pre-send product to every one of these individuals. Not saying I'm capable of doing that, but I'm just throwing it out there that would be a great thing that can be done.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
We all meet.
We
drop religion, and we just talk as people, spiritual individuals. And I think so much would come out that, we agree with each other in so many different ways. I know there's something on YouTube, on the Tube of You, where they have a priest, a rabbi, a gay black atheist.
That's yes.
And look, within 20 minutes, everybody's hugging and blessing each other. I love that, and I wish more people,
because that's what life,
to break barriers. So that's why having a sesh with a psychological healer, I am totally for. I mean, what do you think, Ray? Is that something that's so far out there type of thing?
It's something I've been doing for a long time as a life coach, right? And that's the whole reason I do life coaching, is the fact that it takes down those barriers in a lot of ways. I mean, a lot of people come to me as a life coach because I'm not a therapist, because those barriers aren't there, right? I'm still disconnected and third party. I'm not getting involved with any of your stuff. I have no stake in that, but it still gives you that ability to talk to somebody who's at least, has a different perception, been through some different stuff, so I think it's a great idea. But again, it brings us kind of back to what I was saying earlier, that underlying mentality that brings us together. Like, it really just helps us relax, which takes down our conceptual borders. And now all of a sudden we're hearing each other a little bit more, because we're not drowning each other out with our own fears. So I think it's great. I think it's absolutely necessary, and it's exciting to see.
And it's exciting to do. I look forward to my sessions. I used to not look forward to my patients. I used to hope that they didn't show up. And now it's like, oh, I get to sesh. I mean, it's almost enjoyable.
But it's also opened you up, I imagine. I mean, it's dropped down barriers for you. Because I would imagine being an empath, being a psychological healer, being somebody who's able to help the direction of people's thoughts, maybe, all of the pain that is brought your way. And it's such a difficult thing to disperse that pain, disperse that back to your normal life, and just to be able to drop it and move right on. You take on so much. But in cannabis, it gives our body a chance to assimilate some of this information. It gives our bodies a chance to, it's just a relaxant, but it's not. I mean, it's so much more. For me, it opens up the blood vessels. It regulates my energy, because I am high energy all the time. Like, it's just a little strange sometimes. So yeah, but instead, then I smoke sativas, and I'm just kind of here, and people are like, oh, I don't see you calm. I'm like, oh, it's not a usual thing.
So I did my dissertation, which took me 2 years, and is 600 pages, on compassion fatigue. And that's technically secondary traumatic stress. And the research comes out usually from combat veterans who just hear or see the hear or see but aren't really involved in the combat itself. But it also applies, a lot of the research is from hospice nurses and some now psychologists and first responders. And I will tell you that the amount of trauma that I have listened to, in life coaching, in psychology, we talk about our vessel. In self-care, we talk about our vessel. And as a listener, I am a vessel. And when that vessel gets full, I need to do something to empty it out. Otherwise, I can't take more in. And the amount of trauma that some of my patients have gone through, and I want to hear it. That's why I'm there. I want, part of the healing process is to find somebody that bears witness to your trauma. But what is that person who's bearing witness going through? So growing up, hearing stories about the Holocaust, I experienced trauma. I had to, I mean, I remember hearing my mother was left on her school bus, and my grandmother was almost had a heart attack, because in Poland, if your child goes on a bus, you will never see them again. So here in the United States, she couldn't switch over to, my child is safe, I just have to call the bus company and find out where she is. It's America, those things don't happen. And I'm hearing this as like a little girl going, oh my God, and being an empath. And, understanding that my grandmother was so worried, and that, how that changed how my mother was brought up, and the anxiety of every day saying goodbye and not knowing if they're gonna, I mean, it translated.
This is something that's so deep. And when I say deep, this is probably another episode as well, because wow. All right, and when I say that, look, being Jewish, I've been discriminated against in big portions of my life. I was sent to military school as a child because I was a bad child. And I was sent to a Baptist military academy. So the reason I said it's a Baptist military, because it's in the actual name of the place. And so religion for them was a very big thing, and military, and strict, and punishment. Where being the only Jew, there was a movie called School Ties with
Yes.
Brendan Fraser.
Yes.
And I lived that for like the entire time. But it didn't get better. I mean, it wasn't like some great football player. Instead, I was kind of rolled around a bit. I'd run miles every day. Actually, it got me in shape then, not out of want, but out of necessity. Not out of wanting to improve myself, but out of the necessity to defend myself. And you grew up with trauma in that. I grew up with that kind of information about the Holocaust, and about family members dying, and about my grandmother hiding in ditches, and I mean, look, wow, the stories I've heard, the stories I've watched, and to have it be so closely involved in my family, that's incredible trauma.
And even now, I mean, if you think about what we're seeing on social media has never been an issue with war before. Now we are seeing it live. We're seeing it in real time. I mean, every time I log into my Instagram or my Facebook, there's things that say content, you shouldn't watch this. Be careful if you watch this. I mean, the things that we're exposed to, we would have never seen in the past. The rapes, the things that are coming in real time. The hostages.
People in real time, and not just in real time. It's the people in Israel, the people in Gaza, the families and the stories that are changing because of this kind of information. you know, and it's,
and the false information that's coming out, even,
oh my God.
you know, it just trying to make sense, like not even taking sides, just trying to make sense of what's going on,
Well,
is
and I think it's a
traumatizing.
worldwide thing that we need to make sense of now. And, you know, where people have stopped coming together. I mean, yes, this is, and the trauma of this, the trauma of the war, the trauma of Ukraine, the trauma of the Soviet, you know, Russia. I just want to say a lot happening in Russia. Um, all of this trauma is shaping our generations right now. And to know that we have options to have a sesh and get some of this off of our chest, I love
And
that.
we as life coaches do, going back to taking care of ourselves, we have to have an outlet to deal with that trauma because we're hearing it. So as an empath, it was probably the worst thing I could have done was to get my doctorate because now I'm like overloaded with that compassion. It's not just compassion. It's wow, what is that like? Now going home with it, what do I do with it? How do I?
No, and that's, look, it's such a,
Uh oh, did I lose you? Okay, I'm back. Um, how do I see the goodness in life when every single day I'm hearing about crisis and struggles and misery? And I will tell you, cannabis allows me to take a walk and see beauty in life and not get so stuck here with my patients. I can disconnect easier with cannabis. So I've experienced that it helps me with my own secondary PTSD. It helps me with my own PTSD that I don't even know I have, you know, whether it's generational or it's happening day to day because of what's happening around the world. Um, Cannabis has helped me with those self care techniques. You know, I go get a massage, and if I can tell the difference if I use cannabis before or if I don't. If I don't, my head is all over the place. I can't relax. I've experimented. I'm a doctor through and through. I do these experiments with myself. Um, if I
you practice with anything besides just cannabis? Because I'm very
uh
open about my exploration through psilocybin and and cannabis. Um, I love them both. But in that, because I do love mushrooms, I think, and it's not just psilocybin; it's lion's mane, it's
yes.
chagra, it's all of those in combination with my other
So
mushrooms.
I love my mushrooms. As I will quote my fungi friend who says, "I am mushrooms, mushrooms am I." um it again, it goes back to this is a plant that has survived everything, everything, the ice age. I mean, this is a plant that has been around
Six
forever.
hundred million years of evolution. 600 million years of evolution.
Why are we not using it? Why it can adapt to any situation, and if you study the internal workings of people, we are internally, and I don't know the exact scientific because I'm not a mycologist, but we are the same as these mushrooms. So, like, unlike a synthetic drug, when you take a synthetic drug, and I'm not going to um, vilify SSRIs, you know, if you have to take them, you have to take them, whatever, that if it works for you, great. But if you take a chemical, your brain has to decipher what the chemical is and then tell your body how to use it. Mushrooms, there's no transfer of information. Your body, because we're made up of the same things, your body already knows how to use it. So, unlike the chemical, we're not introducing something new. We're introducing, like the cannabinoids. We're introducing something that our bodies already know how to use it. So there's no guessing. It's gonna work.
I do want to mention it fights addiction in the sense that when you take mushrooms, so if you were to take it and then 2 hours later I want to take more, nothing really is going to happen other than extending that entourage that you have. And then the next day, if you don't take double the amount, you're going to feel absolutely nothing. And then the next day after that, if you take triple the amount, you feel nothing. Or sometimes you feel a little something. But it's something that you cannot take so many more mushrooms. Your body has to reset.
So the addictive properties, you know, am I addicted? People ask me all the time, are you addicted to cannabis? I can answer that in 2 ways. Physically, no. If I don't smoke cannabis, I don't have a withdrawal. I might be a little bit more irritable, maybe. But again, that's mind over matter. I could use meditation to reduce my irritability. Like there's other things I could use. I've definitely stopped using cannabis without seizures, without heart palpitations, without all of the withdrawal effects that you have when you stop using drugs.
Nicotine or anything else. Right. I mean, look, I quit cannabis for me is look, it's not, am I addicted? People are always asking, Oren, but you're high. I'm like, well, I'm high on life. I'm high on people. I'm high on emotion. I'm high on change. So do I need cannabis? I need the pain reduction. I need the overall body balancing.
And it does that. And it does that for you without the addictive properties. And what I mean by properties is not just physiological. With the majority of drugs, people stop functioning, they stop working, they stop having relationships, they stop learning how to communicate. To me, and cannabis is not for everybody, and I'm very honest about that, but if you can use a plant and still be functional and still wake up and still have relationships and not lie, steal, or cheat, what's the problem? That's the problem with drugs. It's not the drug itself, it's what you choose to do while under the influence of drugs. If everybody who smoked crack just stayed at home, we wouldn't have a problem. That's not what they do. So going out and getting in trouble and making bad decisions and not working and being a drain on society.
Because of maybe the way that the brain is altered because of the heavy use of some of these terrible chemicals.
And the need to have more.
Chemicals. Look, cannabis, it's no chemicals. Look, if you're smoking a rosin, it's fresh press. It means what came out of the plant. If you're smoking a distillate, there's the chance of chemicals being put into that. If you're smoking the plant, it's the plant. It's
and that brings it back to your original question, is it kosher? The only thing, so all herbs are kosher.
People, y'all hear that, right? All herbs are kosher.
All herbs are kosher. What makes,
I just want y'all to know, all herbs are kosher.
All herbs are kosher. All fruits and vegetables are kosher. What makes cannabis more kosher is that a rabbi comes to the grow and makes sure that from seed to flower to fruit, everything has been done in a certain way, says his blessing, gives it his okay. And also the main issue is bugs. Bugs create this is new to me, bugs will make something not kosher. You cannot eat bugs. But if you're not eating your cannabis, then it's not an issue. So if we're smoking our cannabis,
so it's more kosher.
It's more kosher if there's no bugs.
So
Right.
it's more kosheric to smoke thy weed than it is to eat thy weed.
Yes.
If you're looking for the most kosheric ways of using cannabis.
Unless you can make sure and you trust your source that there are no bugs, or you examine it and there's no. So then the main thing also is edibles. Edibles become not kosher because of what source they're put in. So if chocolate needs to be kosher, and you're one of the people that believes that chocolate needs to be kosher and you only buy kosher chocolate, then your edibles can only be made with kosher chocolate. And I think Bang is the brand. Bang, BHANG. I think, I don't want to plug True Leaf, but I think True Leaf carries it. That is kosher chocolate. The
Very
gummies.
interesting. It's interesting to know that here in the state of Florida, which I would see a need for it, I suppose. But, you know, a brand that's carried, that's kosher, you know, I'm sure it's not even advertised as though it were something kosher, but definitely very interesting.
And people have asked. That's the only reason.
At this event, at your event, by the way, I just want to quickly plug this again. At your event this weekend, this Sunday, this is where, I mean, you're going to have a lot of education. You're going to have speakers. You're going to have different blessings, and everybody is invited to this, correct?
Everybody's invited.
This is not just for the Jewish community. This is like for every community.
This is for everybody. This is for everybody with a Jewish flair.
Sunday, they have speakers, they have educators, they have different ceremony happening, which is always very exciting. A costume contest.
Vendors.
Is the food infused at this event? Is there infused food, or?
There will be infused food. I'm not going to tell you what it is. There will be infused food that will be obviously, you know, set apart and labeled as infused food.
Well, I was going to wonder. I was going to ask if people coming to the event.
But the majority, so
tray off to the side there.
Bring your own. It's bring your own medicine. There's places to smoke outside, which is an amazing venue that's allowing us to do this in Palm Beach. We're not selling any product. There might be a vendor that's selling edibles that are not kosher. So I'm just going to have a sign that says not kosher. They may be selling THCA. I don't know what they're bringing, which is whatever.
Another hotbed topic. Oh my God, that's another. Look, here in Florida, we're dealing with just some wild things. And now Ray's not here in Florida. Ray's in a place that's much colder. He's in a place that is not climate friendly. So he's probably under many layers of protection right now. Are you dealing with snow, by the way?
No, it's about 60 degrees here.
Oh, not terrible. It's a sunny day for Ray. It is
that's a cold day here.
For Ray. That is a beautiful thing.
I live on Vancouver Island. It's actually rather nice. We get all the air currents off of Hawaii, and half of Vancouver Island is actually south of the border. So
Vancouver is absolutely one of my favorite places to go. Will not go when it's cold. Just, it's not going to happen.
But definitely here in Florida, we're dealing with some wild things with new legislative actions that have taken place where they're putting big restrictions on single-use nicotine, which I don't smoke anymore, so I'm not against it necessarily, but I'm not for it. So I'm not one for limiting people's individual rights. And then also the hemp law of what is going to be offered in store. And I believe it knocks out like 90% of the product carrying that smoke shops, health food stores, and anybody who offers any kind of CBD products would be able to carry it in Florida. It's huge. So we're waiting on a signature from hopefully DeSantis to cease and assist these silly actions by people who don't use anything at all, and they're making legislative actions on their own recalls. Maybe they were in a conversation with somebody and they're like, oh yes, it's a good idea. So it's
And
not
I
like
don't think it'll stick.
a lot of jobs. And it's not just that. THCA is cannabis from hemp. From but it's there's a very fine line there because there's the female plant, there's the male plant. And from hemp, if you're extracting things, sometimes you have to use a lot more of it to extract to get to certain cannabinoids that can be very beneficial for the body. And then you have, singular cannabinoids like delta 8 or delta 10. And recently they're able to get larger amounts of delta 9 through different extraction methods. It's the old weed you used to smoke 25 years ago. It's the shit you would get that's bricked up with seeds and stems
And,
and peel off the layers of it, and you can hold it up to the music. That's how we
and
used to
bang it.
Well, that was hemp. That was hemp. We were smoking a higher THC hemp. And now in our cultivation processes, we made it look so much prettier. So in Florida, there's a loophole where you could sell the flower, where you could sell this, and there's a lot of things out there. But I'm really not for the loss of jobs. I am for a restructuring of the industry, and I don't believe the law. And just in short, I just don't believe the law is going to be signed in its current form. And
Yes.
I'm sure some changes will be made to make it hopefully easier to digest and better for the smoke shop businesses. Because right now, a lot of them struggle because there's so many of them and they offer the same things. And they did different things. Maybe they did things like GNC does, the healthcare, and offered other vitamins, other options to be able to expand their holistic lines. But anyway, so I was just stating, Florida's going through a lot. It's wild. And
It's wild.
And I know in different places in the United States right now, people are going through very similar new legislative actions against hemp. So I am all for hemp. I smoke both. I use one to supplement the other. I mix them together. I don't mix tobacco and I just want to ask, I have to, do you mix tobacco and cannabis together?
Me?
Yes.
No.
Now,
I smoked tobacco for 14 years. When I moved from Baltimore to New York, cigarettes went from $5 to $12. And I had to decide which habit I wanted to continue. And it was the one that was beneficial to me. So it was give up nicotine all the way. And now, the spliffs that are combining the two, I can't, they make me nauseous.
Thing. And I ask because a lot of Israelis,
yes,
a lot of Jews, especially that are more European, and
it's very European.
And Palm Beach and Miami, there's a lot of mixing of cannabis and tobacco together. Now I quit smoking, and I can't do it, but I know it's a very European, and I find it to be sacrilegious against cannabis. How could you dare do something terrible like that? I was in Israel and I was rolling a joint. I mean, and look, to tell you the story of getting cannabis in Israel was so difficult. And you would think that you can get this easily. And just to tell the story quickly, okay, because I'm going to do it anyways. But in Israel, so I was there and I looked at my cousin. I'm like, listen, I need to get some weed. I got to smoke. He's like, okay, I will talk to somebody. Somebody will talk to somebody else. I will get the message. Maybe I don't know. This is very difficult. You're asking so hard. He goes, how much do you need? I'm like an ounce. Enough to roll while I'm here for the next couple months. And he's like, listen, this is difficult. What you ask of me, I don't know if this is capable. Don't worry, I will talk to people. So, anyways, long story short, and like a couple days later, he comes to me with this little matchbook. Like they had to push out the matchbooks from one side, and they'd open up. So he gives me this little small matchbook box, and he's like, "Okay, this is for you." I'm like, "What is this?" He goes, "This is cannabis. This is no." He said, "This is marijuana." What do you think this is? This is marijuana. And I'm like, oh, no.
For a mouse.
So, anyways, I opened it up and it was weed, but all compressed in a little brick inside of this little mat. I'm like, and he goes, "This was expensive. This was so difficult. I had to go down to, I'm in Haifa, so I had to go down to the lower section. This is so dangerous." So I start, okay, fine. It is what it is. So I started rolling a joint. And so I had papers. And he goes, "What the hell are you doing?" I'm like, what the hell are you doing right now? What do you mean? He goes, "Put tobacco. You put tobacco to put." No, this is crazy. Don't just smoke it on its own. What are you doing? So they look at it like you're wasting. And
Well, it's also
England,
hash.
so difficult to get it in England. Holy shit. That was like a act of God that I was able to get weed there. But everywhere I travel, I'm still able to find it.
They don't have vapes. They're so, when I brought my vape there, they were, my cousins who smoke, they were like, "What do you mean? We can go in the bathroom? We have kids. We can just go in the bathroom and vape?" And I'm like, "Yeah, here." And they would come out. "Oh my God, that was amazing." Okay, this is what I do all day.
See, that's the difference between cultures, though. I mean, when you look, and that's where I would love to reach. I talk to people all the time from the Middle East, from all over the world, from the UK, with so many questions but they don't have these options.
Right.
And you would think in places that have medical programs that are even the forefront of education, or not even education, but research.
Research, absolutely.
As Ray said, quite a while now it's been decriminalized. But I bet you the average citizen there doesn't know.
The average citizen doesn't know. There are children walking around with, the bucket hats with cannabis leaves all over them. There's cannabis shirts. There's Bob Marley paraphernalia. You would think that there's cannabis everywhere in Israel, and you can't get it. And you can't ship CBD into Israel. CBD, you can't ship into Israel.
It is sold.
It is sold.
But nobody knows about it. It's like how I look at the Florida medical program. 18 million people voted for this or something. It was a huge vote to get medical cannabis to be an option here in Florida. And there's under 1 million people on the registry. Under 1 million people signed up for the medical program. I want to say it's 850,000, something of that nature, that are actually signed up for the program and are capable of getting cannabis. I talk to people all the time. They're like, "Really? There's a medical program?" I remember voting for something, but there's a medical program? Wait, now? I'm like, there are hundreds of dispensaries.
Don't I need a referral? Don't I need a referral? Hillary, what do I need to say when I go in to the doctor?
So we need education.
You just say yes. Do you have problems sleeping? Well, yeah. Do you get anxious sometimes? Yeah. Do you have pain? Yeah. Who doesn't? Who doesn't qualify?
I think look, you're asking a biased individual here. I think everybody qualifies.
That's my point.
Everybody in traffic qualifies.
Absolutely. Everybody in traffic.
Ray definitely qualifies. Ray super qualifies. He's like, "Listen, I'm not going to even start. I've had a hard life." And look, if you listen to the last episode we had with Ray, there's so much more I want to delve in. His life has been shaped through, so much individualism, so much individual thought and exploration. And that's why I see the old yogi inside of him. The longer the beard gets, I see this old yogi. Right. I see. By the way, I want to thank everybody for being with us. In a little bit, we're wrapping it up, but I do want to thank everyone for being a part of this conversation, this exploration. And I want to just admit, again, the event is this Sunday. I'm very excited. I will be there. I will be hosting the event, introducing these amazing speakers. Anybody that has any questions about cannabis, its future in medicine, in in healing, self-healing, self-exploration. I will be there to answer those. And I think that's what's one of the greatest things is as a community we come together. Even though I am spiritual and not religious, I can still come together as part of the Jewish community, the exploration of that community, wanting to learn more. I want to teach them more. I want them more open to what's out there. Because that, to me, that's like, wow, that's amazing. And I want to talk about a Seder. I want to do like a Last Supper, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
We
really
could do we could do a Hanukkah latke
not a
cook-off.
Last Supper. I don't want to call it a Last Supper because then we got to crucify somebody, and this is terrible. And then they're going to be blaming me. So
Yes.
I don't want to go down. See, a lot of doubles.
First supper. We can play off of that. But
in that, I love the exploration of cannabis and spirituality, cannabis and even modern dominant religion, because I feel they need to open up more.
Yes.
Religion is, and you know why? I just, it's not the destruction of it; it's the openness of it. I believe it was started as a form of control, to control the people.
And when you asked, why, what brought me to the IJCA, it wasn't the religion. It was a way to get to the spirituality and combine the two and bring it, to these communities together that people in the legacy market aren't doing. People in the black market aren't doing. People, in the legal market aren't doing this,
Well, they're not. They're trying to bring community together. And me, as a marketing manager for some of the different cannabis companies, our scrums, our meetings, our powwows. How do we sell more product? Well, we become part of community, and in that, we weren't. Look, and I watch it now. I watch the ideas that we came up with on the Insta Cha-Chas and the Facey Bookies and the Tiki Takis, and they're pretending to be community, and they're pretending that they're all about the education of it. But I don't see that in the real reach of. But now I've started to, and I've started to here in Florida. So, and actually, you've got some sponsors of some great companies. We're not going to mention them now, but some great companies that have really been working hard in the legacy market here to bring the two together, to bring it to expungement. One of your sponsors supports expungement. I can't even say it now. They help people get rid of their record and bring education to cannabis. So I think that's fantastic. I just want to mention that's a big up.
It's a big up
to them. When I make that comment, most of them are trying to be community just to sell a product. And I really would love the long term of it is not to sell a product. I mean, yeah, you're going to sell a product like Coca-Cola, like all the others.
Right. Absolutely.
Through actually being a part of the people. Look, that's what when we used to grow and we used to sell. Look, I mean, I hate to say we were legacy, but we were actually part of the people. We smoked it, we sold it, we talked about it. We helped heal communities through a different acceptance when there was a lot more regulation on the planet. And now that things are all easy and have opened up for big money, now's maybe a time for them to, I don't know, dig deep into themselves and realize that we need to educate people about this and show that there are better ways to use. Look, I don't just smoke. I make a tea out of this. I make my own edibles. I make a butter. I make mead. Which is honey wine. Which I make a great mead. I just want to tell you. I mean, it's really, really nice. And so I use it in so many different ways, but I also use it like that to help heal myself and to heal my ailments because I'm not on anything else but cannabis. And in that, I've also learned to find myself and to be more self-resilient and and that's a lot. Look, I hate to just throw it at Ray, but Ray, that's a lot of what I hear you guys talking about all the time is finding out who you are. Really, it's not about creating, it's just living. And so That's why
allowing yourself to be what you are. Yeah, because I mean, a lot of we were talking about this kind of earlier, like when it comes to cannabis, because for me, cannabis is a great way of getting to know myself in a different conscious environment. Like nothing really changes except that I slow down enough to look at the stuff that I'm investing in, and so in looking at that, I realized that most of the thoughts that cause anxiety or frustration or disappointment or a lower sense of value or any of that, they all revolve around one thing, which is this idea of myself. Like they all revolve around that. And so to me, over the years, it's just been right, but I'm not that. It's like the classic story of the man who spit in Buddha's face. Right, there's this guy who spit at the Buddha because the Buddha was talking to the children in town, and he assumed that he was trying to convert his kid to religion. And so he goes up, he takes his kid, he's like, "Get away from me!" And he spits into Buddha's face, and he goes home. And later on, the townspeople come to him, and he's like, "I don't know if you know this, but that was the Buddha. Like you've heard about him. He's been walking around, like you know who that is." And the guy's like, "Oh my God, what have I done? I've insulted the Buddha." Right. And so then he goes over to the Buddha the next day, and he's like, "I'm so sorry." And the Buddha says, "Well, I can't forgive you. You're not the person you were." Right. And it's always the idea of us. It's the idea of us that comes from the past that we're really focused on. We're never thinking about ourselves in the present. Right. And so that's what cannabis has taught me more and more often, is just that when I'm thinking about myself, I'm not really thinking about myself. I'm thinking about a fiction. I'm thinking about an illusion.
about a character.
Exactly.
A character in one of the many that we play, and that's something that we've been talking about within this how I use cannabis, why we use cannabis, why it's an understanding of it beyond just the medical side. It's psychological, it's emotional. I don't need it. I really don't, and I've gone without it many different times. And in that, I notice some pluses, some negatives, a lot more negatives than pluses, and then those pluses turn into all negatives, and that's like, wow. But it's not even in the constant use of it. I may take a gummy every 3 or 4 days as something to balance me out and not smoke at all. And as I get older, I find I really can't smoke very often. I do want to mention today's topic. We were supposed to talk a little bit more about the new cannabinoids, new development, and things happening within cannabis. So we're going to even push that towards even another episode, because next week, I just want to mention, next week we have Candy Grant, and she is my foremost subject matter expert on mushrooms. And I believe Dr. THC, you know who I speak of.
Oh, yes.
Florida, she is a big educator, a big advocate for PTSD, for veterans, for people with Crohn's, and she has recently won a few different awards in cannabis, which it's like, wow, to win an award in cannabis, what an amazing thing! It's like an Emmy or an Oscar.
She's been around for a long time.
I'm just gonna.
She's one of the OGs. She's been around for a long time. She's doing it for the right reasons, I believe.
And we're going to hear her story. We're going to hear about her next week. So that's another great episode coming up, and I want you all to be part of that because it's going to be huge. But I want you also to know about this great party this weekend. And by the way, I do want to quickly say, because it was in the chat, if people want to get more information on you, where can they go? Like more information on what you're doing, on your movement, on your future endeavors. Do you have a newsletter? Do you have a web? You said the website, or you have?
I have a website. Don't love the website just because I don't know who uses the websites anymore. But it is drthc.net.
drthc.net. So
.net. The Insta Chachi. Instagram, it's Dr. THC Net. I also have on there Dr. THC Presents, which is my events that are coming up. If you go on the IJCA Instagram, they will have, I cross post for those events. I'm on Facebook. You can find me at my name, Hillary Taylor, or Dr. Taylor's Holistic Community. I have a page. I do have a group on Facebook. It's called Canna Jews and Friends. And I also have that on Instagram, Canna Jews and Friends. Very important and friends. You know, if my whole thing is, if you don't judge us and you don't want to kill us, you're part of the community. So
We
that's
don't have a lot of rules. Listen, listen, I just want to throw it out there. You can't kill anybody. I mean, I think this is a good one. No rules, no
no
commandments,
rules. Just don't
but
kill
no
us.
killing.
That's
I
it.
think it's good. I'm just all right.
But you know, we do have to be a little bit aware of what's going on in today's climate. So, and I do get a lot. I feel I have to filter out some of the negativity, but you know, I guess that happens with everybody. So, bring it on.
Have you seen a lot of negativity? I mean, I don't want to be like, tell us more, but I mean, have you seen a lot of backlash? Because I do see it come up on the Insta Cha. I do see it come up
Yes.
on different sites. So from those, do you see, you know,
Um. Yes. Not when I came out as a cannabis user, but when I came out as a Jew.
see,
Um.
that's wild. So you come out as a cannabis user within the psychological field, and you really don't get as much backlash, more as a Jew. But now, is it because
People
of the
people
environment that we're in right
unfollowed.
now, do you feel?
People unfollowed. They just quietly unfollowed when I came out as a cannabis user. They were like, nah, that's what she does. Okay. Not gonna support her. As a Jew, people that I respected a lot in the in my with my colleagues, and people that I don't follow, I have no idea who they um, are pro, I don't want to say pro Palestine. They're more pro genocide of Jews. Um,
Oh, as a
because
pro,
when they say pro
right?
Palestine, they're not talking about
I'm pro
pro
people.
Palestinian.
See, I'm for the
And
people. I'm for all people, and that's why during this time I've become very jaded by the news, and it's very difficult to watch what I mean. It can be shaped in so many different ways, and when it comes to media, I have my own opinion. I'm not a big. I mean, we need media, but when it's shaping everything you see, and it's not everything that's happening, it's a hard thing. And I don't want to go and say one thing or the other because I feel for these children, and I cry for them. I cry for these mothers. I cry for these people who have lost anybody on both sides.
I
So one
think that the
size.
end,
That's why
the
I'm so happy that it's for the people. And
I think in a lot of people's minds it's an either or, and the word "and" is taken out of their vocabulary, so it is possible that Palestinian children are suffering, Palestinian families are suffering. That is absolutely true. And it is also true that Israelis are suffering.
correct.
And
And I see how, and also the Christians that live in Jerusalem in their communities, and outside communities, much like the Israelis have. That's why I'm saying I'm for the people,
me
and the
too.
people need help. They need awareness. They need education. They need open arms, and that's not something that's happening in that region. The region doesn't have open arms from any of its neighbors as well. I
No,
mean, just talking about Israel here, we're talking about Egypt, we're talking about Syria, we're talking about Jordan, we're talking
Lebanon.
about Lebanon, and all of these are neighbors. That if you look at a map, the amount of territory is insane, and we're fighting over a very small piece of land that has so much religious history and spiritual history as well. That's why there's so many different religions there. And that's what I'm saying again. I'm loving that this is for the people and not just for, specifying one, it's all. And I
It's
love that.
all it's
Not your vet, by the way. And I'm also very excited about your movement of a sesh. I had an idea years ago where I really wanted to have this, call in and have a sesh. And you can video into somebody on a couch. And somebody's on the couch or the table with a ball, and they're like, hey, welcome. We're just going to chit chat and we're going to smoke. So tell me all your issues, because when I used to get together with people and smoke, we would open up. Look, I just want to mention the events. Ray and Andrew put on these healing retreats that are amazing. They look fantastic. I'm so excited one day to join these. And that's what I'm talking about. People get together. And this is like a session, but of people, of energy, of frequency. And that's something that I'm totally for. So if you're ever interested in that, Ray, do we have a link to your next event? I know they have one coming up, or they just had one. Oh no, the mini retreat in California. Only 2 tickets remain. Look, there's still space. That's pretty cool. And
our next one actually is going to be in Colorado, and it is an extremely 420 friendly event in that we can smoke inside at this one. There's a movie theater in the basement. There's with some nice plush reclining seats. We got a pool table, foosball, Pac-Man, air hockey, hot tub in the backyard. We're going to be barbecuing, and of course all the cannabis is provided for, and I spend all of my time rolling. I also give tutorials if anybody would like to roll the joint.
It's beautiful.
That's deep learning.
One day I hope Florida can allow us to do that.
Likewise.
I should travel and teach people to roll with a dollar bill. You know, you don't have a rolling. Let's learn with just a dollar bill. What, do you do it freehand, Ray?
Yeah.
Like do you do it one-handed?
I used to do it one-handed. I can if I really want to, but it just takes too much time. I'd rather just and I'll roll about, I don't know, a joint every 25 seconds or so. So it goes pretty quick.
Wow. No, that's quick. Listen, people, that's a skill. That's special, especially when you're at a retreat. You need somebody who knows how to roll a joint in a hurry. Look, there's an emotional crisis coming. Ray's like, no, I got this. Done.
I'm a glass user.
I got you just in case shit happens.
And so I never learned how to roll. I can't even figure out how to roll with the rolling contraption that they give me. What is this? Just give me glass.
You know, and I'll be honest, I like the combination. I like going different ways. I like my pipe. I mean, I have a lovely mushroom pipe.
I get pre-rolls.
But when I'm doing events like this weekend, I'm doing an event, which is going to be a great educational sales event. And so I'll be outside. They're letting me outside, and I'm doing the Sunday event as well.
And you can smoke. You can bring your glass.
So I think this is going to be great. Again, a Jewish community and friends, everybody coming together as one community, and that's how I look at cannabis. It's
me too.
One community. We are all the same under the leaf. There are no bias. There are no misunderstandings. It is what it is. If you're high and only high, kind of brings life together a little bit, and we need that. I wish that could be a teaching that is done. Government, you know, in compassion. I really believe we could solve so many crises of the world by just being more in touch with ourselves and understanding that by walking in their shoes, it's not about money. It's about people. It's about life. It's about energy. It's about now. And so that's where I think cannabis can be such an amazing world changer. And then when we start understanding, I do want to mention other cannabinoids because this has been such a great talk. CBN, it helps regrow bone. It's age-degraded THC, but it may not help to regrow bone very quickly, but it can help stop the degradation process, like osteoporosis. You know, and it's used in combination with better fats in the body, more avocados, things like that. You know, better oils, no super saturated fats. Cannabis is the combination. Being spiritual is part of the combination. And I say that you don't have to be spiritual, but if you're going to be super spiritual, don't forget about cannabis. You know, don't forget about the aid of it through your journey and through your life. And so it's health for me, it's spirituality for me, it's finding who I am in this world. And at the same time, losing all of that and forgetting it all and just being. And that's something that's been the hardest thing for me to do. And so each episode I try to approach with more authenticity, more me. This is me. Look, I'm into myself and slightly chauvinistic. Hi, world. I'm trying not to be. I'm trying to be more empathetic for all those around me. So I'm in process of whatever it might be, and hopefully for the betterment of all of us. But
I just want to say before we wrap this up, I've really enjoyed the conversation. Hillary, it was really nice to meet you. I look forward to the next time somebody asks me, why do you prefer smoking? I'll just let them know that it's kosher, and then I'll just walk away, let him stew on that for a bit, and not resolve that at all. So I really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun for me. I always enjoy being a guest on High and Empowered. So this was great. Thank you so much.
This was wonderful. It was so nice to meet you as well. And thank you for having me, Oren.
I want to thank you. And I will see you on Sunday at the event. Congratulations on everything there. And thank you for being so open with us, because there's a lot of things you talked about, and I know it's difficult, especially coming out to your family. And, it's a big deal coming out to your community in multiple different ways. I mean, it was wild. I mean, if you really hear the power of it. And on that note, I want to thank all of you for being here. This is awesome. Thank you. And everybody have an amazing day. Be strong, be powerful, be everything. Be now.